Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Stephen James, founder of Apex Sanitization Systems. Today, we explore the future of IT asset disposition. From automation and chain of custody to data security and the use of AI, Stephen shares his perspective on building smarter, more efficient hardware for the industry.
Those kind of mistakes cause problems, and a lot of times you don't find out about them until the actual building's fallen down. The value is where the hardware actually supports a trustworthy process, and most gear don't think about that at all. Track 2 is probably be try again tomorrow, and then maybe track 3 is it was on the ground, loop all wrong, along.
There it is. It's right in front of you. You've got it.
Yep.
What kind of manual processes still, drive you crazy or kind of are things that you see as things that could be updated or changed?
Drive labeling, number one. It's 2026, and some companies still expect operators to write serial numbers on a sticker with a Sharpie. That's the tel industry automated a lot, but somehow labeling is still 1997.
Yeah. And we've had to kind of be very neutral on that, from the software perspective, because there's so many ways folks are doing it. So it is, you're right. That's just another one that I think it's right there with some of the device like cosmetic grading, and there's some things coming down the pipeline that are sort of helping clear that up. But obviously a lot of groups have different ways of grading things, and that doesn't translate to different places, and it just kind of makes a mess. But the labeling is an interesting one too, because I've seen that too. I've seen big, sticky, hard to remove stickers put all over a tiny little drive, and
Well, I just think that you shouldn't have somebody writing it manually, because compared to being typed or scanned would be the best. That's gonna be perfect. But how do you know that person's 9 isn't somebody don't think that's something else, or or 1 get misconstrued with a 7? It's those kind of mistakes cause problems, and a lot of times you don't find out about them until the actual building's fallen down.
Yeah, and I've definitely made, a lot of noise with folks about just thinking about how they're using those tracking numbers. I mean, I know a lot of people like to use serial numbers, for example, and then there's those rare chances that manufacturers duplicate a serial number, or the serial number is kind of damaged in a way that you can't really read it. And they're little details, but they just, it sets off a chain of events. It messes up all the reporting, and they're still kind of the best practices versus kind of, I think, what people just want to do. They have their workflows they're comfortable in, and they don't really want to change. But then it's kind of like, well, best practice would say, you create a unique identifier, put it in some sort of, anti-static bag with a clear label. Boy, now that thing is pretty well accounted for. Anybody who picks it up has a way to figure out where it came from, what's its state. So I don't know. There's one of those things actually, and rolling around in my head with the guys over here with WipeOS, of trying to have labels that would attach to our reporting in our portal, so that anytime, again, somebody wants to pick it up and know kind of where this thing came from, what's the state of it, boom, you scan it, you can see, oh, it was wiped on Thursday and it's been sitting here. At least we know that much, TBD if that will come out in a new release of WipeOS. I'll let you all know. It was kind of brought up here on the show, but yeah, that'll be. But that's kind of another. I mean, another piece of this all is kind of always trying to improve things, figure out what else we can do. And I know I don't want to get too into it because it's not the whole point of this show, but I know you and I are users of the AI, right, in certain ways. Right. Obviously, it can help. What are your feelings on this whole story? I'll just put it that way. Is this all hype about AI? Do you see it being a game changer? I mean, I know it's a big question to answer, but what are your thoughts from the kind of hardware side? What does AI mean for you?
I mean, pattern recognition, identifying devices from photos, or flagging weird wipe logs, sorting inventory, that's real stuff. But where the hype is anything it claims to make security decisions. you don't need AI to tell you whether a drive it got wiped. You need proof. That's math, not machine learning.
Nice.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think what is starting to already get uncovered is this idea that AI is just gonna, A, take our jobs. That's kind of ridiculous, but B, um, make it so that we don't have to do the work kind of per se. I mean, I just am not seeing that take shape. If anything, it does make us a little more effective in a lot of our communication and a lot of our documentation, right? It can be useful that way for just the
right.
LLM, the words, but yeah, trying. At least I haven't seen it yet. I know a lot of folks are out there playing with the bots, trying to make it do all their jobs so they can put their feet up for the day. But I don't know. I think I'm going to keep them working for me, right?
Exactly.
Kind of moving on. Okay, so back into kind of some of the hardware stuff. Again, you've done a bunch of different rigs and machines. I mean, what's kind of the like hardest piece of hardware you've ever designed or modified? I mean, walk me through kind of something that might have been pretty challenging for you.
Well, always the hardest ones have definitely been the ones that you're fighting density and the human at the same time. So, making one interface work on a bench is easy. Making a lot of them work in a tiny footprint, all sharing power and airflow, and then it still has to be serviceable and dead simple to operate. That's kind of brutal. So everything fights everything. Density fights cooling. Cooling fights noise. Servability fights compactness. Some fights are capable, and I feel like I trade constantly. With that.
Was there something you built that you gave up on, or just you were just got to a certain point that you just said it can't be done?
Yeah, on my flagship wiper I've recently designed. I can't describe the mechanism; it's patent pending. But there was a solid 2 weeks where everyone I fixed, I tried the alignment problem, broke a different thing. So I put it down and went camping.
Yeah, that'll
Thought
clear
about
your
it for a
head.
while, blew off some
Yeah.
steam, came back, and the answer was right there. I almost yelled at myself by the time I saw what was going on, but I still needed that little weekend up in the mountains. Did me a little good. So
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of cleared my brain from all the gray noise that was going on, and I was able to pinpoint the issue right then, and which definitely made my universal docking system complete.
Oh man, and I'm excited about that because that does solve a lot of problems that we are always trying to kind of deal with around here. And it's there's been, I think, some attempts with. I mean, a lot of what we see is people using adapters and frankly just kind of putting square, like I said, square pegs into square holes, but it doesn't. They're not paying attention to what the real technology is. I mean, for example, I mean USB lanes, right? And you very few people pay attention to even what 2.0 or 3 are, right? And what's the blue one versus the white one? I mean, it just starts there, and
Hmm.
it's wild how fast you see something that should work. I mean, again, it connects. The Legos go together. It should work, but you have now completely deprecated anything from the technology of it, the power, the lanes that are there, all the things you messed up along the way, and then you go reach out to your friendly software provider and say, why isn't it working? And you go, okay,
Yep,
we we
you
might
got
need to
it.
rethink this. But
You
it's,
know.
I mean, but I also appreciate the just trying stuff. I mean, we've always been that way too. So it is one of those, like, I'm never disappointed or frustrated with folks when they've, at least they've tried it, right? Do it, try it.
Right.
I mean, as long as it's not, I mean, there might be a few situations where I've kind of giggled a little, but it's all in good fun. So with that said, like, it sounds like this kind of, I already know the answer to this question, but is there something, obviously you have some new stuff coming, but is there something you've already built that you're pretty proud of, or that has been, something you're pretty impressed with?
Yes, so that'd be the my bulk wiper. So I've got four different models of HDD/SDD wiper, and mine handles up to 960 drives simultaneously in one footprint. Um, that's not an upgrade. It's in a different category. than anything else, and it works, and other than the second generation machines that I built for the company I currently work for, um, I haven't found anything sold commercially online that does more than 120 drives.
No, and I know them well. I mean, we've used a lot of them. We work with a lot of them. Our users use, different ones, and it's just been, there was a company who did a good job out of Europe with some of this, and frankly, I think as technology moves, as things kind of change, it's been hard to keep up with. And I think what you've kind of touched on is having the ability to have multiple things connecting in the same sort of space, right? And figuring out how to get all those different connectors to go through. Because I know, we've done huge builds, so to speak, or helped build out large SATA SAS wiping rigs, but then all of a sudden they got NVMe drives, and all those backplanes aren't gonna see those drives. So now we're moving on to different servers and kind of, building it as we go, and that's okay. But I definitely am excited to continue to see what you do with this hardware, and work with you where we can, to collaborate on that, because it's still, there's some big names who have done some really great hardware here and there, but as it stands today, there isn't. I mean, it's a big opportunity. There isn't a brand or a company or a group that I know of that says, we build hardware for these purposes. So I know sounds like that's going to be you, and so that's going to be fun. So okay, so anyway, kind of changing the tempo a little bit on things. I mean, as you're working on some of this new stuff, or you're kind of working through building and the design and the testing, if there was like a soundtrack for this, I mean, is the song like a heavy metal screaming thing, or is it like a nice, melody, kind of relaxing? Like, do you get in the zone where everything's coming together, or is it like, heavy metal rocking out? I need to figure out how to get this done. What's it feel like for you?
Uh, it's definitely hardcore. And the name, the song title would definitely be 960 at once.
Nice, nice. I like it. I get it. Get them
Track
all
two
rocking.
is track two is probably be try again tomorrow, and then maybe track three is it was on the ground, loop all wrong, along.
There it is. It's right in front of you. You've got it.
Yep.
Well, and that's what I mean. I think it's, again, you've got these creative outlets. You've got your music background and things you do there, and it's not hard to imagine. As you're putting things together. Again, it is a bit of kind of a musical adventure in some ways, and sort of just using that creativity. Um, yeah, I mean, another thing I was thinking about leading into this is, as we started, we were talking about, some on-site wiping, or some different things changing around security requirements and things getting stricter. um, how important do you think it is for hardware to kind of support those workflows? And I guess the other thing is, I mean, you know how do you stay ahead of what's coming for the security side of this? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's massive. Physical connectivities is the easy part. Anybody can move bits. The value is where the hardware actually supports a trustworthy process, and most gear don't think about that at all. So, yep.
Yeah, no, that, and I get it. I'm just thinking about, how does hardware intersect with security? And I guess I know for us, a lot of times it's around the network side of things, and thinking about, if you're going into a data center, um, and it probably isn't happening much. I know a lot of our users can roll in servers that they're putting the drives from the other servers into these other servers to wipe them. The on-site mobile wiping rigs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it does, as I'm asking this question, I'm realizing it's kind of interesting to think about the security piece of that hardware coming into a colo or a data center that's, has their security policies. I mean, I know, USBs for a long time aren't allowed on any campus anywhere, especially not a data center. And we've had to dance around that in different ways. But it is kind of, again, it's another one of those things to think about when you're building out the hardware. How do we make these devices themselves secure? I don't know if you have any
Well,
insight to that, you know?
yeah, well, as far as when I've made my devices, I've gone on one principle that most places that don't want you to take their stuff off site, they also don't want you compiling data with AI.
Definitely not.
Um,
Right. Correct.
I don't do the software part of it, but I do have some, I guess you could say, hardware AI on some of my machines, as if, say, for instance, my server wipers. So those are AC and DC powered, provided. So on the DC power, you can select DC power, and it sends a low level signal through there through the control box on it. And if it doesn't meet the conditions of being plugged in, then it's not going to turn it on. Or if he gets pulled out accidentally, it's not going to shock anything or arc anywhere, because that
There you
kind
go.
of that hardware AI senses that and shuts it down quickly to keep the person from damaging the unit or injuring themselves.
Yeah, that was another piece. I guess safety as well as security is another piece to think about, right? If you're going to build
Right.
a custom wiping rig, let's say, and yeah, you just got, you know, boards kind of barely in there and cables kind of running the way they shouldn't, and everything's just ready to be touched or arced, or, you know, I don't know. I'm sure I've done it. I think I've shocked myself a couple times just messing with RAM, but that was because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just the last thing on the security piece, really. I mean, where do you see a lot of, and again, I'm thinking more on the hardware side. I mean, are there some security or gaps in the security that you see today on, you know, with some of this stuff?
Um, so the space between hardware and software, I would say, white tool trust of the OS. The OS trusts the bootloader, and then, you got the bootloader trusts the hardware. But if you break any link in that chain, and the certificate at the end is meaningless, so nobody talks
Yeah.
about that because it's uncomfortable, and that's where the real risk lives.
Yeah.
Something,
No,
you gotta go ahead.
we get pulled into that sometimes, right? Because something quote unquote won't work, and I'll say it that way, but it's because there's, you know, you're not running, the software's not in its environment to run properly, and so it's there
Yep.
when you're asking. And again, this is very self, you know, our own use cases, but it's true in a lot of different, you know, softwares or scenarios. But when you're asking us to say, okay, well, just make it work, kind of an attitude or sort of a thing, it's like, well, there's reasons. These are fail safes, and these are things that just making it work. You know, we do that one time ever, and every certificate of destruction we've ever generated basically becomes invalid, right? You're just making
Right.
stuff up. So it's a hard conversation, you know, from my desk sometimes, because it's definitely, I empathize, you know, there's probably something really valuable at the other end, or it's a very sensitive environment, and it's like, hey, we need to get this wiped today. What can we do? And it's, you know, there's been those times where it's like, well, the way you're going about it, it's not going to happen. We got to, you know, we got to pull things, take things apart, dig deeper, you know, and get
Yeah.
creative. So
If
yeah.
you want to think outside the box, really, you should stop thinking of the workstation as a connector and start thinking of it as a thing that guarantees process. Connectors move data, design earns trust, and those are two different jobs. So,
Oh, I might use some of that. That might go on one of my t-shirts or something. I don't know. I like, it's a lot. It's a lot to put on a shirt, but I get it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, keeping things moving here, Stephen. I'm having a good time with this, man. It's like, I know you and I both understand that, you know, this is a unique industry to be in. I think everybody in this industry kind of fell into it in a lot of ways. I hear that story all the time. Hey, I was trying something and then I thought this would be really neat, and you find that ITAD, and ITAD just kind of an easy way to frame it, right? It's anything with technology. It's just finding ways to improve things, extend the life of devices, and really just kind of be a part of our everyday devices and how we're all using them, and making things happen.
Hmm.
One thing I wanted to get to that I think again is just the, quite literally, the $1 million question. I mean, if you had no manufacturing limits, all the resources, if you just had a blank check to get after it and build, let's say, the most awesome ITAD like workflow. What might that work look like or feel like? What would you do if somebody said today, here, build the most streamlined, automated, you know, ITAD there is?
Okay, well, if it didn't cost any money and had no physics involved, then I would want a bench where a device goes in and everything after that is automatic identification, the right interface, right method, wipe or destroy, verification, maybe tamper evident record. I mean, all of it. And the only thing the operator does is load and unload. That's their interaction with the machine. That would be the ultimate machine.
Yeah, I feel like I get asked that for that occasionally, and I almost have to just be polite about how I say, well, you still do have to turn things on and plug them in, but there may be a day in Steven's near future that, the thing just goes through some kind of laser scanner, a bunch of other AI stuff, and it doesn't, there you go. Everything's tested, ready to go, and it's right back out the door. It came in 10 minutes later.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Man, that'd be great. I think though there is some realistic truth to that. I mean, in our lifetime, or at least with the limited resources we have, to reduce a lot of what's being done now. Definitely the manual stuff. I mean, I'm shocked when I do hear folks that say, we still got a pad and pen, and we write down what the specs are, and that eventually goes to the resale guys. That still exists, as hard as it is to believe. Even
Yep.
the spreadsheet guys that type it up in the spreadsheet. I mean, that still exists in a way that I'm like, man, there's other ways, and there's easier, better ways. Well, I think better, but to each their own. They can run their business how they want, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, all right. So this last part of this, I like to have a little bit of fun. Again, man, I'm enjoying learning from you and about your history of how you've kind of gotten to be this person, an engineer, not by education, but by real world, trial and error and learning and doing it. I'm super excited to see what you've got kind of up your sleeve, and there'll be more to follow on that, for sure.
All right.
But yeah, some rapid fire round stuff for you. I'm going to ask you a few things, fire at you quick. Basically, just say the first thing that comes to your mind, and we'll see how this goes. I haven't done a lot of these, but we'll see how it goes. So, coffee or energy drink?
Coffee for sure.
Soldering or oscilloscope?
Oscilloscope, man.
Ooh,
Irons. A soldering iron's a hammer. Oscilloscope's a stethoscope.
nicely done. It's funny because I'm been the opposite on both these so far. I'm a soldering iron is what I know. I used to do headphone repair stuff back in the day, so that it's big and clunky. But you're right, it's a big old hammer.
Yep.
Um, NVMe or SATA?
NVMe.
Yeah, my guy. There we go. Mountains or the mud?
Mud.
You said it right. I tried to say it with the right mud. There you go. Linux or Windows for diagnostics?
Oh gosh. Linux. Windows diagnostics is like surgery with oven mitts. Definitely Linux.
Love that. Yeah, we're a Linux house over here for sure. All right.
Mhm.
Most overused buzzword in tech. I know the answer to that one.
AI powered.
There it
Definitely.
is.
If I
There it
hear
is.
AI powered stapler one more time.
Man, I was at the computer store the other day, and it's so. I mean, it's a marketing thing. It's a sell. It's gonna sell, but the amount of AI laptops I saw was shocking.
So actually I just ordered one of those for one of our team members, and for the function that they do, totally would say that AI powered business laptop is the way to go for productivity.
Interesting, because of what though? This goes back to the hardware. Like, is it that it's just beefed up hardware? It's got more cores
Oh
and
yeah,
processing
yeah,
there, or what?
it's got a business grade architecture. It's got a beefed up GPU in there that can do calculations. So you can use that in anything. If you're a salesman, well, all the stuff you send to other people and all the data do, that's where that AI stuff comes into play. You want to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I agree. But then is there a difference in, I have 300 tabs open every day, so my laptop's always, stressed out and working too hard. I don't think a AI laptop versus your other Windows 11 laptop's really going to handle that any different, right?
I'm not sure about handling that any different. I mean, depending on what kind of laptop you got, that AI powered one is going to handle all the resources being open up at the same time. But yeah, but as far as doing a workload, that's where it comes into play. The stuff you're talking about is irrelevant as far as that. We're talking
Yeah.
about how is this going to create more productivity out of that person, or
Yeah.
maybe they don't sound as professional, and then they use that AI to make them sound more professional when they're dealing with professional clients.
Right.
There's so
Yeah,
many
there's some.
avenues you can use that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very good. Well, again, man, I really appreciate you joining me today, and I'm excited as always to see where you go with things. This industry needs folks like you. There's just, I know we've tried to figure out some things in the hardware innovation side, and I think it's really interesting that, even a decade ago, if you were to try to fabricate or build, servers and wiping hardware and things, I mean, it gets ridiculously expensive just to come up with a design model. But now today, again, back to some of the AI stuff and just all the other tools. I mean, things are reasonable now where you can have a vision for something and say, no, I want it to work this way. It ought to work this way, and I'm going to build it. And I know that's what you've got cooking. And again, I'm excited about it. We've done a great job working with our users for years with the hardware they bring to the table. We've had some things, we've provided to them hardware wise, but I know there's lots of room for growth there.
Thanks again for tuning into our conversation. To learn more about Stephen's high-volume data sanitization hardware, visit www.apex-itad.com.